Hello, beautiful, beloved beings. I am Alana Parrott, your resident creatrix over here in our conscious community, all based and built off of love and authenticity. So if you want more love, more authenticity, you want to be a part of co-creating a conscious community, become part of the tribe. If you want to know more about me, the link to my website will be the first link in description. It's going to bring you to my link tree, which has all my resources. Whether you want to check out my poetry book, if you want to know more about my background and my portfolio, about what a creatrix is and like what is all this and why am I doing what I'm doing, it's all there in the first link in the description. I'm ready to get down to business. We are here to have a conversation, but not just any conversation. A conscious conversation. Welcome to the third video in our conscious conversation series. We are co-creating here within our conscious community. And so within this series, it's all about evoking consciousness to the conversation through tapping into consciousness as a means to awaken and remember who we are. The other videos are on a playlist on my channel, so if you want to check out the first two videos, feel free. Convenience Kills is the first one, and the second one was Constructs of Constriction. We got into some really juicy stuff there. But today, our conversation is all about, also, if you want to support me and what I'm doing, that will also be in the first link. It's going to bring you to my link tree. Again, if you want to purchase a book, my poetry book, or if you want to send a donation, share, all in the first link. This is what I do full time, fully committed to cultivating my dreams into reality. As we know, we talked about in our last conscious conversation, we are the most powerful people that we know. So, wanted to put that out there for y'all. But I'm ready to dive into this conversation. As you can tell, we have really cozy vibes going on. I'm in my luteal phase. I'm on day 25. So I will be transparent with this series. I want to post about every week, and why I say about every week is because when I'm bleeding, when I'm having my bleed, my moon, the start of my cycle, no recording, okay? However, the other weeks I plan accordingly, in rhythm with my cycle. So this will be the last video in the Conscious Conversation series until not next week, but the week after, because I will be bleeding then, and that's such a sacred time for me. If you want to know more about that, we can totally talk about that some other time. But today, in our conscious conversation, we are here to talk about fear. Our conscious conversation today is all about following the fear. Yes, the thing that can be so scary and so debilitating is really where our greatest strengths and our greatest growth lies. So let's dive into it. All right, let's go. I got some tea here. Highly recommend getting yourself a nice bevy. I never say that. A nice beverage. Water. Love water. Cacao, whatever floats your boat. So, fear. Let's dive into it. What is fear? One of the easiest ways to identify fear can be resistance. When we are experiencing things for the first time, we can be met with resistance. Or when we're confronting what I call earth-shattering truths. Earth as in like what I would really describe as like the matrix, the reality in which we've been programmed to digest the world as. So earth-shattering. When we are confronting earth-shattering truths, we can be faced with resistance. When we are people who mirror our behaviors faced with resistance, with fear, okay? So one of the easiest ways to identify fear can be resistance. It's pretty light. I'll be like, that's like lowercase f fear, right? But we're here to dive deep, okay? So what else is fear? Fear is ultimately the unknown, or how we've been programmed to digest fear and associate with fear is truly the unknown. So our patriarchal past has equated the unknown to not being safe. And ultimately, through doing so, has demonized, like that program has demonized people, ideas, and concepts we don't understand. And instead of seeking deeper understanding or exploring the fear that we have, has been programmed so that we cast out, we push, and we punish the things, people, ideas, or concepts that we do not understand. And a lot of us have been on the receiving end of that. If this video has found you, if it stumbled upon your your awareness, one, your vibrational frequency for that. Okay, I set my intentions beforehand that this would reach the souls that it is meant to reach for a reason. Okay, but you most likely have been on the receiving end of that if you identify with being a black sheep, or some people call white sheep, being the one who's misunderstood. Often the root of that is that fear. And so it's also important, as we break down what fear is, one of the last notes that I want to put in this section of what is fear is it has egoic roots for our safety. As I mentioned before, our patriarchal past has pre-programmed this unknown to be not safe, and for fear to be kind of like the blinker in that, the detector in that. And so with our egoic roots, our ego was originally designed as a way to keep us safe. And so it's important to know that as we have evolved as people in humanity, so has our ego. And so what do I mean by that? Our ego has now, instead of seeing, which it still does work on the baseline level of like, okay, yes, we see certain people that we don't understand that are unknown to us, and we can put that in the category of fear, right? You're walking down the street, you see someone, you're just like, I don't really know. Yes, it operates as that, but it has also evolved with us. So when we receive a mean comment or a nasty comment on social media, it hits us much like us being attacked by a bear. So reading that message and feeling attacked by it is our ego processing, and how it goes to show how our ego has evolved for that to mean like, oh, this is unsafe. This is unsafe for me. So fear, in relation to our ego using fear, or I should say really the powers that have been facilitated fear as false safety. We'll discuss how we can utilize fear as evolved souls, operating at a expanded level of consciousness. But it's really important to know that the powers that have really programmed us to fear the unknown. And it's important to understand where it comes from, and also where it comes from in our body, so that we're able to identify, and we're able to, because where our Our biggest power is in our awareness, right? It's such a beautiful tool for us. So as we navigate this conversation, keep that in mind. All right? Fear can cultivate a false sense of security. It has egoic roots. Also important to know that what our ego has deemed safe for us, quote unquote safe, does not equal freedom or does not equal expansion. All right, so keep that in your mind. And now we're going to explore how we experience fear. We broke down what fear is at a conscious level. Now let's go down to how we experience it in our everyday, day-to-day lives. First off, you're going to experience it in your ego. We mentioned the ego before. The ego, the mind, baby, our reptilian brain. Oop, excuse me. And so this can manifest as the beliefs that we have ingrained, the stories that we have affirmed and told ourselves about what reality is, what quote unquote safety is. And I actually have a poem that I wrote that I feel like encompasses the ego and how it works and how closely linked fear is and our experience when we experience fear from the ego. So this is not in my poetry book, but I do have a poetry book that is available. This poem is called Ego Manifesto. Ego, ego, ego. You are so full of yourself. Ego, ego, ego. Always putting yourself on the top shelf. Ego, 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 you think these are the things that will accumulate your wealth. Ego, 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 none of this is even good for your health. Ego, 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 you take and take and take. Ego, 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 and for what? For your own sake. Ego, 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 you stomp on others to build yourself up. Ego, 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 when in reality you're a scared little pup. Ego, 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 always hiding in fear, holding all that you love dear because you're selfish and greedy and mean to the core. God, I can't stand you anymore. Ego, 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 do me a favor for my own health. Ego, 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 how about you go yourself? Insert profanities here. I'm navigating what I can and can't say, like the censorship on the YouTubes, which, I mean, spirits tell me don't worry about it. But connecting that poem I wrote when I was experiencing someone operating in their ego. And what I feel the poem, Ego Manifesto, brings up, one, able to identify the ways in which it operates, right? Breaking it down. So full of yourself, always putting yourself on the top shelf. You think these are the things that will accumulate your wealth. None of this is even good for your health. Going into that false sense of security. Being like, okay, yes, this will keep me safe, right? And it's coming from here, putting yourself on the top shelf, because if you don't prioritize yourself, who will? That safety. Take and take and take. When is enough enough? When will you truly feel secure? You're seeking it externally. And for what? For your own sake, not even for the highest good. Not even for the highest good of others. You stomp on others to build yourself up. Oftentimes the ego comparison, baby. When in reality, you're a scared little pup. There are a couple other writings. I think Jen Sincero in You're a Badass at Making Money, I think she mentions there being like a prince, a little prince within us that needs to be validated. It's either her or somebody else, but the idea of your ego also translating to a prince that needs to be validated, that needs to be praised. But in reality, where is that coming from? When in reality, you're a scared little pup. You're a scared little prince that is just seeking safety and security. Always hiding in fear, holding all that you love dear right? Hiding in fear, embedding yourself in fear, that being your safety guard, your fence, the fear being your fence of false safety and security, holding all that you love dear, that lack, feeling like if you let it go, it will never come back because you're selfish and greedy and mean to the core. God, I can't stand you anymore. Do me a favor for my own health. How about you go F off? Something that's important to note, that when I wrote this, I was really coming from a place, and you will often see this in a lot of I want to say false spiritual, but we'll say like lesser evolved spiritual communities, is demonizing the ego. And I want to break that for a moment, because as we mentioned before, it's our patriarchal programming that has made us demonize ideas, concepts, and people that we don't understand and cast them out and punish them. And you'll often see that happening within spiritual communities, lesser evolved spiritual communities. And so my invitation here is, instead of demonizing the ego, let's seek the deeper understanding as to why it's here, why it has served us, how it can serve us. But in that process of doing so, instead of demonizing, let's demote the ego. All right? Understanding, listen, you're just a little prince that needs extra love and care. And I see you, I hear you, and I'm not going to let you control this. I'm stable. I am secure. I control this. So you know what? We're going to demote you. We're going to demote you. So you're still here. You're still operating. You're still valuable. But you're not running the show. And you don't need to run the show, because I got this. All right? I got this. So as we explore how we experience it, and we're going to talk about how we can use fear at the end of this conversation. We're going to talk about how we can utilize it. Let's focus. Let's create a deeper bridge of understanding to fear and to our ego, to our reptilian brain. Let's create that bridge of deeper understanding. And instead of demonizing, let's just demote it. We can understand it. We can be like, listen, you're not serving me to this caliber. You're demoted. How else do we experience fear? We experience it mind, ego. Let's also talk about some physical ways in which we experience fear. So let's look at the energy centers. A lot of us will experience fear within the can't see my hands, within the lower energy centers. Fear is really based in the root chakra. That that insecurity, that is one pretty vital place that people will light up with fear. A very fundamental place. Something that's also important to note is that depending on the past experiences and trauma, whether that be capital T or lowercase t traumas that you've experienced, you may experience fear in different energy centers. Okay? So mostly the root for a lot of us, but some people might experience it in their heart, in their solar plexus, if it's something that something has directly impacted their sense of personal power, their sense of emotion. A lot of our trauma is stored within our sacral. But some people will even experience it in their third eye. The worries, the anxieties. So it's important to know, sometimes this can show up as tension. Knowing that your hands will tense up in certain situations. Hands are extensions of the heart. Your throat will feel constricted. You'll get a sensation in your solar plexus. So tension can be a way that we can identify But I also want to put this in your hands because, again, you are the most powerful person that you know. Okay? You are. And no matter what I say, I am not the end all be all. I am not the guru for the ages. You are. I'm just a reflection of you. And for the things that you may have forgotten, so use me as a launch pad. All right? So what I ask you to do in creating a deeper bridge of understanding to fear, the next time that you encounter fear, ask yourself, assess, breathe, and ask your body, ask yourself, where am I experiencing fear in my body? How does it feel? Can you think to the first time that you felt that way? If not, that's okay. Can you think of when you encounter certain situations, like that feeling, that sensation? Are you tensing? So people will tense up in their jaw too, furrow their brows. But these are important things to know, to be able to identify how it shows up in your body, to gain a deeper sense of awareness. So then we can heal that. Next in our conversation of how we experience it, oftentimes people can experience fear as the needing to know everything, needing to understand everything, like that deep, satiating need, right? Because that's your ego wanting to create false safety, because it's like, okay, if I know everything, then I'm safe. I can predict everything. I got this because I know, and I'm seeking this externally. One of my favorite YouTubers, conscious creators in the YouTube community is Sky Life on the YouTubes. And she needs to know everything. And she's such an amazing reminder to myself, and really mirrors the part of myself that needs to know in order to understand or to feel validated. So it's important to know this is one way we got a dumpster truck coming by. A dump truck. But this is one way in which fear is talking to us. So it's, again, a fear of the unknown coming up. You feel like you need to know everything, because if you don't know, you're not safe. But do you want to know the tea? Like tea is in truth? Is that you don't need to know everything to know that you are safe. When we go back to how fear can physically manifest in our body, fear is correlated to our root, our sense of safety and security. So of course, this is just a full circle of you feeling like you need to know to feel safe, when in reality, knowing everything, you don't want to know everything. That's so exhausting, for one. And even just the process of seeking can be so exhausting. That's not how we gain nourishment. Yes, we can gain inspiration, but nourishment, that also comes from our root. Root is where we release. Root is where we're able to regenerate, when we're able to feel safe and secure. So full circle. You don't need to know everything to know that you are safe. And if you feel that way, part of the reason why I mentioned, where do you physically feel it in your body, is because we have amazing tools at our disposal nowadays. Oh my gosh, the amount of color therapy, color healing that you can perform on yourself. You realize that you're seeking a lot of things externally, and what you really need is safety and security. So you assess, okay, I'm feeling this in my root. What color is the root? The root is red or black. Do I need to be wearing more black? I can wear more black to support myself. I can wear more red to support myself, to evoke the safety and balancedness of the root. So it's important to know that these are all intertwined. Knowing where it's showing up in your body, feeling the tension so you can release it, knowing the energy center so you can heal it, whether it's through the colors that you wear or the colors that you ingest into your body, the foods. Root. Again, I'm focusing on the root today. This can be applied with any of the chakras, any of the energy centers. And please, again, I'm not the end all be all, and I'm not the end all be all. There are other mentors that you can totally seek out for deeper information on these topics. But the root, maybe you need to consume more root vegetables. Have you grounded? Do you feel that you can receive love and nourishment from the earth? A simple grounding meditation where you imagine your own roots connecting to the roots within the earth, or just putting your bare feet on the ground. All of this is healing. All of this is accessible to us. And it's important to know that this is what fear is giving us the opportunity to do. So we're going to get into probably my favorite part of the conversation today. Why I was so lit up and excited to film this when I received the divine download for this. I was so excited for this. I am so excited for this. This part right here. How can we use the fear? My favorite, one of my favorite experiences and mentors that I learned from during my BFA training. For those of you who do not know, I trained for 4 years for my BFA, Bachelor's in Fine Arts, in acting and directing. And it was during my training for my directing where we looked at different directors. And the Anne Bogart came across my sphere. And the reason why I love her so much, I love her philosophy, how she lives, how she directs by. And it's something that can and does apply to anything. And what Anne Bogart is all about, she's all about another truck just went by. I want to make sure y'all can hear this. Anne Bogart is all about following the fear. So how can we use fear? We follow the fear. So Anne Bogart's philosophy, and this is my summarization of it, okay? Please do more research. She's amazing. But her whole thing is that as a director, and it's crazy because we are really the directors of our lives, okay? Most powerful people that we know, all right? Her whole philosophy is that as a director, people, everyone, literally everyone, comes up to you and expects you and asks questions and expects you to know where they're going to go, what they're going to do. They expect you to direct them, right? Just like us, we direct our energy, whether we consciously know it or not. But so she was facing, she had to give people answers. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And one of the scariest things as a director that you could do is say, I don't know. Because ultimately we think that I don't know doesn't instill trust. So her whole thing was leaning into the I don't know, the most fearful thing that you can do as a director, which is say, I don't know. And she would use that as a launch pad to explore, because she believed, she believed that fear gifts us attention. It gifts us awareness. And so she would follow that fear. And it was her belief that fear is our guide to greatness. Because on the other side of that fear would be mass amounts of expansion and beautiful creation that would spawn off of that. So Aaron Bogart is all about following the fear. Another truck. heavy loads and heavy transmissions that are happening right now. So how can we use fear? We can follow the fear. Some of y'all may be like, what are you talking about? The thing that makes me feel insecure, the things that sometimes debilitates me, you want me to follow that? What? It can seem such like an oxymoron. But here's the truth. Fear debilitates us when we let fear control us. And here's another truth, capital T, universal truth, is that fear fuels and motivates us when we let fear guide us. I'm feeling called to let y'all know how I personally have applied that within my life. When you think about those scary things that we honestly don't know what would happen on the other side of. A year ago, I was faced with a decision directly affecting my home. And I was basically given an ultimatum of, like, you do what is traditionally expected of you to do. You work a traditional 9-to-5 job, and you stay where you're at in an environment that was not suitable for my growth, or you move out. And I chose to move out, not because I didn't know where I was going to live, but I knew I could not stay there. And so as fearful as it was to make that decision to move out, I moved out of home. That's where home. I moved out with my family. So after I finished college, I was living at home with my family, and they were truly scared of my student loans, because I had decided that previous August, I was working a cleaning job, and I had decided, like, this is literally sucking the life out of my soul. I can't do this anymore. So that's when I committed to being a full-time creatrix that you see me doing today. And I was doing that for almost a year when I was living with my parents. And I was paying rent. I was sourcing my own food. I was just living with them. And the fear of my loans really drove them to be like, listen, you either do what's expected of you to do, what's traditionally done, or you move out. And I picked the scary thing. I picked the unknown. I picked the path less traveled, because I knew I could not compromise my soul. And on the other side of that, here I am living in such a beautiful environment that's a lot more supportive for my growth, that has allowed me to be here doing this, to come out with a poetry book, to get awards for my performance, to be able to speak in front of colleges. If I had stayed there in the known, where's the growth? And so it's important, as we finish this conversation, one of the last points that I want to leave you with is that on the other side of our deepest fear, right? Because I was facing a lot of insecurity. I was like, oh my goodness, like my own family giving me this ultimatum, which I know now is them doing what they thought was best for me. But they didn't have my vision. And so a lot of people aren't going to have your vision. So it's important to know that on the other side of our deepest fears is our greatest growths. So I'm going to leave you with one more quote. One more quote. This is from an essay that 18-year-old Alana wrote for a leadership institute that I had applied for going into my first year of college at URI. They have this beautiful leadership institute that I was, a participant my first year, and then a facilitator in. More on my website about that. And it just came up the other day, and I was reading through this essay, and I was literally crying at just all of the things I was able to articulate at the ripe age of 18. I mean, I'm 24 now, but I was still just so amazed by myself. And so I'm going to share this quote with you. It's the last paragraph of the essay. And 18-year-old Alana, this was written July 14th, 2018. Ooh, let me get a sip of water. Tea, it's tea. So Alana writes, one of my favorite quotes I try to live by every day is, "Be fearless in the pursuit of what sets your soul on fire," from Unknown. I am a passionate and determined person. Whatever I set my mind to, I will do. This is one of my greatest strengths and weaknesses. I know that my passion can lead to rash decisions, and my determination can lead to stubbornness. However, I also know that as humans, passion is a spark that ignites the flame in our souls, and determination is what makes us fearless. Everyone is afraid of something. No one is born fearless. But it is when we confront our fears that we push ourselves out of our comfort zones and ultimately learn and grow the most. So take it from 18-year-old Alana, as well as current day Alana, and truly just me being a reflection of you and your consciousness and where it's ready to grow and expand to. You can do it. Use the fear. Understand it. Demote the ego and follow the fear. Because on the other side is greatness. All right, loves. Thank you so much for being a part of this conscious conversation. Oh, hand right on the mic. Thank you so much for being a part of this conscious conversation. I am so honored to have this be a part of my path and a part of my mission, and just to be able to share and express myself with y'all. So if you would love to support me, send a donation. I do this full time, so donation, job opportunities, hey, I'm open to it. The link to do so is below. Also, what is more valuable than an energetic exchange? So simply your time on this video. Thank you. If you feel called, give it a like, share it to others. Become a part of our conscious community where we co-create together through subscribing. Let me know how this resonates below. And remember to stand in your authentic light and shine bright. My loves. I love you.